trust no one. This is John from John Linaball Tutoring, and here's my website, here's my email address, here's my cell phone number. So my advice to you in this video is when you're applying to colleges, that includes college selection, all the way up to the moment that you set foot on the campus for your first year of college, trust no one. And I'll explain why. First, don't trust your teachers. Your teachers might tell you something like, you won't get into Harvard, or whatever your dream school is. Now, statistically, that's probably true. Harvard has a less than 5%. It's like 4.7% admissions rate, but it's not an appropriate response if you've told the teacher you plan to apply and are asking for a reference, etc. I had an English teacher, I had the same teacher for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, who would tell everybody that you won't get into Harvard. I just told her I was applying, and she said, well, what are your scores like, and da-da-da, and she did write me a reference for it, but still, I don't need teachers telling me things I already know that, yeah, it's a long shot to get into Harvard. And it's worth applying because if you don't play, then you know you're going to lose. So as long as your scores are reasonable, etc., apply to that dream school and, let you be the one who gets rejected, not to... Let me put it another way. You want to be rejected by the school's admissions office, not by your teacher who's upset because she didn't get to go there or he didn't get to go there, so it figures you won't get to go there either. It's appropriate to say it's really hard to get in and you should have a safety school. That would have been much better coming from these teachers. And what were your SATs, ACTs, which the one teacher I was telling you about did say, or even your grades in my class probably aren't Harvard level, maybe you should ask someone else for a reference. No, if there's a legitimate reason that your teacher wants to tell you, hey, I really don't think you're getting into Harvard or University of Pennsylvania or MIT or whatever, then fine, maybe you are aiming a little too high. In any event, do your own homework. You figure out what's realistic for you and what your reach schools are, what schools you just have to apply to no matter what, and make your own decisions. Don't let teachers make these decisions for you because their experience may be 10, 20, 30 years out of date. Believe me. I won't get into it any further than that, but, just you need to do your own homework. Don't let your teachers keep you from getting into the school you wanted to because they said you can't get in. If you're asking a teacher for a recommendation, make sure you ask them for it long before the recommendation is due. It's really not the teacher's responsibility to get the recommendation in on time. It's your responsibility to make sure the teacher gets it to you on time or mails it out on time. Because, well, think about it. If the teacher misses the deadline, what's going to happen? Teacher's not going to get fired. The teacher doesn't care. She, he, whatever, has already got a degree. And so that's just going to be a, oopsie, sorry, maybe you can go next year. So it's really your responsibility to make sure it's done. You want to make sure the teacher actually believes he or she can write you an amazing recommendation, especially if you're applying to an Ivy League school or an elite STEM school such as MIT or Caltech or something like that. Not just an, oh yeah, this kid, it's really nice, seems pretty bright recommendation. You do not want to be, in quotes, damned with faint praise. I believe that's from Shakespeare. Don't recall off the top of my head what play it's from, but... this kid seems all right, seems pretty bright, probably will do well in school. That's not going to get you into the elite colleges, and admissions officers can read between the lines. Didn't make much of an impression on me, but yeah, I looked at his grades, doing okay, so yeah, sure, why not? Why don't you admit him? And so you want to remind the teacher a while before it's due. You want to ask if you can review the recommendation for accuracy, etc. Don't tell them what to write, but it's appropriate to remind the teacher of what you did in the teacher's class. Oh, you really liked my project on this. Excuse me. Or his or her comments about you, etc. What your grades were in the class. It's always good to prime the pump, so to speak. Just, you're not lying. You're just telling the teacher, hey, you made these comments about me. Maybe that's something you should think about. Or do you remember this great thing I did in your class? Da, 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 da. All right. Don't trust your guidance counselors. Guidance counselors, generally very, very nice people. I never had a guidance counselor who I thought was deliberately trying to do something bad to me or didn't like me or anything like that. But guidance counselors are human beings. They can give you the wrong information about what tests you need to take, when to apply, etc. I swear this happened. My guidance counselor in high school, when I asked him about, how do I go about applying to take what they called the achievement tests back then. They're now called the SAT-2s or SAT subject tests. I needed to take at least 2 of them, and I planned on taking 3. The guy just came and said, "Oh, no, you only take that when you're at the peak of your knowledge." And he emphasized peak, so it's at the peak of your knowledge. And I didn't have the heart to tell him, well, if I take it when I'm at the peak of my knowledge, that's after the peak of the application deadline. So I just realized I was going to have to go and figure this out myself, and I wasn't going to get any help from that guidance counselor. So just like teachers, they might actually be a bit malicious in that they might discourage you from doing things that you want to do because they didn't get to do them. I don't know if that counts as malicious so much as just kind of a defeatist attitude. Well, I didn't get to go, so I'm pretty sure you're not better than me, so it's not like they're going to let you in. So actually, if you think about it, I'm doing you a favor by keeping you from wasting time and your parents' application fee money for a school that you won't get into, or for a test that you're only going to need for schools you won't get into. Okay, more likely they just, like this teacher, he thought he already knew the answer, so he didn't want to find out what I needed since he thought he already knew. So don't assume malice where incompetence will sufficiently explain the situation, to paraphrase Napoleon. And a lot of these guidance counselors, a lot of these teachers, they learned a bunch of things back in the day. It's been 20 or 30 years. They haven't learned anything new. They don't want to learn anything new. If you're doing something that's different from the average person in your high school, they're just not going to know. But again, just like with the teachers, if they have objections based on real evidence, well, a 1200 SAT and B's in your math courses probably won't get you into Caltech, according to this guide, is based on solid data and should be considered. Caltech's really, really hard to get into. You're going to have a pretty close to a perfect SAT score and unbelievable math ability. I mean, they ask for things like, show us an original mathematical theorem that you developed, things like that. Guy I went to high school with who went to MIT even said, no, he couldn't get into Caltech. So when an MIT guy says basically Caltech is harder to get into and I suppose therefore better than MIT, I believe it. It's an admission against interest, as a lawyer would say. So it's best to find out directly from colleges, test makers, etc., what you need to do and how to do it. Don't trust the principal. For the same reasons you shouldn't trust your teachers or guidance counselors that I already discussed, don't trust the principal. Additionally, the principal probably doesn't know you that well. The principal is much busier being kind of a political liaison with the superintendent and board of education, etc. He's an administrator. He's not really a teacher or somebody who interacts very much with the student body. I mean, if you're somebody who's scoring high, like the valedictorian or salutatorian, I was valedictorian, yeah, principal will know you. Principal probably be amenable to doing you some favors, but probably doesn't know you, and therefore isn't really the best person to ask for a recommendation. Probably doesn't know that much about what you need to do to get into college because that's not really his or her job. Hopefully the vice principal or whoever handles discipline also doesn't know you well. That was the joke. The vice principal is the principal in charge of vice. Ha ha ha. So hopefully the disciplinarian, vice principal, whatever you call him, does not know you very well. Him or her. Don't care. Anyway. I am your boss. All right. Don't trust your employer. Direct supervisors from paid or volunteer work, as well as adult supervisors associated with school or other clubs, are all subject to the same warnings I've given you about teachers and guidance counselors. They might not know what you need. It's even worse if they think they know what you need. They may discourage you because of problems that they had in the past, and they think things are the same way that they were 30 years ago when they were applying to college, or 40 years ago. So they probably mean well, but they likely just don't know what you need. In addition, much like all these other people, they have lives. They're not going to drop everything because you need a last-minute recommendation, and they also forget things. So you want to ask early. You want to remind them, hey, remember how I did this project? Remember these great ideas I came up with that we put into action? Notice that I'm always here 15 minutes before my shift starts, and I stay late, and I don't say anything about it, blah, blah, blah. Those are all great things to remind your boss of, especially in a volunteer job. If you say, hey, yeah, I did this because I have a mandatory community service project for my school, but I've gone over and above the call of duty. Wouldn't you agree? And remind them. Let them know that you'd like to see that recommendation and have them mail it out a week before it's due. Or, whatever, at least a couple days before it's due. So that way you know it's going to get to the college in time. All right. More don't trust your employer. Hire supervisors from paid or volunteer work, your boss's boss or your boss's boss's boss, as well as hire adult supervisors associated with school or other clubs, are all subject to the same warnings I've given you about the principals. They probably don't know you well, or maybe you wish they didn't know you well. There's a difference between being famous and infamous. Famous is you are well known for something good. Infamous means you're well known for something bad. So, unfortunately, the only reason the big bosses are going to know you that well is either you're famous for doing something really great or you're infamous for doing something really bad. Oh, this is the kid who fell asleep on the job. Oh, this is the kid who, came in wearing a ripped t-shirt and ripped jeans, didn't understand why we sent him home to change, da-da-da. You don't want to be infamous. You want to be famous. So hopefully, if you can get a recommendation from the big boss, hopefully the big boss knows you and what he or she knows is something really great about you. Also, it's really much better to ask someone who really knows you well for a recommendation rather than to ask for a recommendation from a VIP, very important person, who doesn't know you very well. So what I'm getting at is if you go to, I don't know, let's say your senator who really barely knows you, but you say, well, I'm the son of a constituent, I'm the daughter of a constituent, and blah, blah, blah. They might be willing to write you a very bland, yes, Joe Bloggs seems like a very nice young man, and I believe that your institution would be improved greatly by having Joe Bloggs and his sister Josephine as students here. Is that good? Okay, great. That's going to be read by the admissions officers in exactly the tone of voice that I've just read it to you, or that I've just made it up to you. Basically, okay, this is just some form letter crud that doesn't really mean anything. It's a lot better to have your physics teacher or English teacher or music teacher say, yeah, Joe Bloggs and Josephine Bloggs are two of the best students I have ever seen in my 30 years of teaching physics, English, music, whatever. Joe was the best tackle on the football team, and Josephine she revolutionized cheerleading at Central High School, da-da-da-da-da. So anyway, that's going to mean a lot more, even if the person's not a VIP, if there's somebody who actually knows you well, who can say something really great about you. And again, even if the VIP knows you well, great, make sure you understand that VIPs, perhaps more than most people, have extremely busy lives. So you are going to have to ask very far in advance, and you're going to have to make sure. You want to keep after these people and make sure this actually gets done. Don't trust your coworkers. Recommendations from coworkers, it's the same problem as recommendations from supervisors. They might not know what you need for college recommendations. They might try to discourage you from applying because, hey, they didn't get to go where they wanted to go. And then there's the problem of, what if the person's not a great writer? There's a lot of misspellings or poor grammar, or the person just has really bad judgment, tries to make a joke, not knowing that, well, if it's in writing, it's going to be hard for the admissions committee to say that, whether it's a joke or not. So if he says, yeah, I knew Josephine, and She only fell asleep a couple times at the counter when she was working. Ha ha ha. She only stole a few dollars. That's not going to be great. What if the person misses the deadline? Well, that's a big thing. Is hey, your worst coworker might be somebody who misses a lot of things, and it doesn't really make much of a difference when you both work at McDonald's or 7-Eleven or something like that. But the admissions office at Stanford is going to say, we gave you a deadline. We don't want to hear it. That was your first test at Stanford, and you failed. What if that person wants to sabotage you? Again, don't assume malice when incompetence will do as an explanation, but how do you know? Maybe this person has a problem with you. Maybe they would be very happy to see you. Oh, you're going to go to the local community college instead of Harvard? Ha ha ha, tough break. Probably not going to make that much of a difference, but hey, if you're going to your safety school instead of the school of your dreams because your recommendation didn't get there on time, you're going to feel pretty bad. And it's best not to share too much until you know the person's your friend. Okay, I mean, you want to use common sense. If this person knows that something means a lot to you, and what you don't know is you've offended this person, or this person is malicious and just likes to hurt people, you don't want to find out the hard way when it's too late to do something about it. So just say, yeah, I'm planning on going to college. Da-da-da-da-da. Probably you want to keep your recommendations basically limited to people who you've known for a long time and who you know are good people and who you know can actually articulate their thoughts and actually know about your academic ability and your moral character. Don't trust your classmates. Let's think about this one. Okay, first of all, if you have your classmates review your application essays, the worst case scenario is, what if that student copies yours and submits, their copy of your essays first? Then you're going to be the one accused of plagiarizing that other student. Does that seem like kind of a paranoid fantasy? Well, it is, but, basically, don't copy anyone else's essays. Don't plagiarize. This is a question that I just answered recently on Quora, where some kid was asking, will a college know I plagiarized my Common App essay even though the essay was a supplemental for a different college, isn't published on the internet, and the essay was submitted for the class of 2019/2000? So the simple answer is, consider the Common App your first test on the subjects of honesty and wisdom. You failed. The college will probably catch you. Sorry. That's the TLDR, too long didn't read version. So longer, my thinking is, basically, I'll summarize that everything is submitted by internet these days, so everything can be instantly run through a plagiarism checker. So that means all the papers that are submitted after a given paper can be checked against that paper. Even papers that are submitted on actual paper can be scanned, converted to text files using optical character recognition, and added to the database. So basically that means even if you can't find the thing on the internet using Google or something like that, that doesn't mean the paper is not actually in some plagiarism or anti-plagiarism sites database, which will be used to check your essay. And it makes especially good sense when you think a commercial service that checks for plagiarism isn't going to let you know exactly what's in their database or let you see the contents or access it, since that's all they have to sell commercially is, no, you give us the thing, give us the essay, paper, whatever it is, we'll check it, and we'll let you know, but you have to pay us to subscribe to our service, so that's the only way we're going to do that. If they just gave it away for free or let you know it was in there or let you access it without paying, they wouldn't be in business, would they? So even nonprofit or free services probably wouldn't let you know what they have either, because their main highest purpose is to discourage plagiarism. So if they can discourage students from plagiarizing papers by not letting the students know what they have, so the students aren't sure whether they're going to get caught or not, it works better if students are just afraid to plagiarize in the first place, rather than if they just have really, really good database and anti-plagiarism checking software, etc. So that's basically it. I mean, you don't really want to take this risk, and come on, if you can't write a little essay for the common application, why do you want to go to college in the first place? That doesn't even make sense. So, hope that helps. Here we have a cartoon. Copying without permission is stealing. Copying without permission is stealing. Thief! So, ha ha ha. This guy copied this person's statement about copyright infringement, and now he's accused of copyright infringement. Ha ha ha. Plagiarism, of course, in case you don't know what it is the act of presenting another's work or ideas as your own. There is also a problem with unconscious copying. Unconscious copying is real. There was a case involving the song He's So Fine, 60s Motown hit, and My Sweet Lord, which was a song by one of the former Beatles, and basically they both had the same tune, and basically it resulted in one of the former Beatles who did My Sweet Lord. He ended up buying the music company that owned the rights to He's So Fine, but that's got to be embarrassing. Everyone agreed he didn't actually intentionally plagiarize that song, but he probably unconsciously copied that tune because it was a really popular song, so it would be impossible for him to say he never heard it. That's also a reason that publishers like to say unsolicited manuscripts will be returned unread. So here we have the He's So Fine versus My Sweet Lord case popping up here. So that was written, He's So Fine was written by Ronnie Mack, and then the My Sweet Lord lawsuit. Okay, so George Harrison, that was the former Beatle who did it. It was a plagiarism of He's So Fine. So, Okay, Alan Klein, Harrison's one-time manager, who had been his legal advisor, had become the plaintiff by virtue of purchasing Bright Tunes. Okay, so basically, Harrison bought Bright Tunes from Klein. Wow, that's crazy. So his former manager bought the rights to this song that he unconsciously plagiarized. That's got to be an interesting story about this guy and his former manager. Anyway, but I digress. So, publishers. If you look at any publisher's website, they will have something on there saying when they accept and in what manner they accept submissions. If they're a literary journal and they want to have articles such as maybe short stories, things like that, they'll tell you how to submit them and when to submit them. And they'll say anything submitted any other way, any other time of year, or just unsolicited manuscripts in general will be returned unread. And that's the reason why. If you send it to a publisher, you send it to a TV network, you send it to any production company, movie production company, they are not going to read that, because if your thing even sort of looks like something that they actually want to make, they're going to realize, oh, it's going to be a lot cheaper just to buy the rights from your story, even though it's not similar, unless they can show that, no, we received that and immediately returned it unread. So definitely you want to watch out for that. That's also an episode of the Netflix original series Love, where the main character's script is bought when the show that he's working on, showrunner, finds out, wait a minute, somebody on the cast actually looked at this. Oh, great! Now we have to buy this from him, and we have to include him in the writer's room and everything. Okay, stumbling over myself here, but I think you'll forgive me. More don't trust your classmates. All right. If it's homework, paper, in-class test, or take-home test copying, look, if you get caught, you could really be screwed. The best way not to get caught is not to do it. I know high school and before, usually the only punishment is getting a 0 on the test, getting an F. That's bad enough. That'll screw up your grade point average. But also, what if you think somebody... I'll try that again. What if somebody thinks it would be funny to change your essay and submit it, hack your email, send something stupid to important people at the colleges you're applying to? Someone like that's not your friend. Even if they think it's really funny, and the worst case scenario, I think, is even worse than if someone's just doing it out of malice, where they just hate you and want to hurt you, is the kid who just thinks, that'd be a funny prank. And then when, of course, it all blows up in your face, they'll say, oh my God, I didn't think you'd get in that much trouble. Trouble is, the damage is done. Even if the kid's willing to come forward and say he did it or she did it, they might not believe you, and that's assuming the kid's willing to come forward. So I would say keep your essays to yourself. Make sure you change your password frequently. Don't use the same password. All the cybersecurity stuff. And probably watch out for who your friends are. I mean, if some of your friends seem like dummies or seem like they're the kind of person to do that, might be time to get some new friends. Don't trust recruiters. Even a college's own recruiters can get requirements, deadlines, and what you can and cannot do at the college wrong. You want to check with the college directly using the website, email, etc. This is an old movie. Probably most people watching this have never seen this. This is a movie from the early 80s called Private Benjamin. Goldie Hawn stars as a woman whose husband dies, and she's talked by a recruiter into joining the U.S. Army. It's a very funny movie, but the recruiter promises her all sorts of things, shows her some pictures of condos that certain Army officers live in, and when she shows up for basic training, she's like, wait a minute, where are the condos? I signed up for the Army with the condos. So military recruiters, pretty well known for telling you all sorts of things to get you to sign that recruitment contract. And surprise, surprise, the stuff that they talked about isn't in the contract, or the Army doesn't have to honor it, whatever it is. So be careful if you're considering going into the military. They say, oh, sure, we'll train you to be a helicopter pilot. No, we're not. Anyway, it can happen. I'm sorry if you're a military recruiter and you're offended, but that's what I've been told. Even worse, a shady recruiter for a college, the military, or another organization that likes to take people right out of high school may actually intentionally intentionally misrepresent material fact. That is, actively lie to you, as I just talked about. So if you can't find it in writing in a contract, if you can't get it in writing from someone in authority, some official source like the college's website or an official at the college, it doesn't exist. Or even get it in writing from the recruiter. This is not a huge deal, but mostly you're going to want to make sure the college has the facilities you need, and you're going to want to make sure that the college actually has the requirements as set forth by the recruiter. Okay, that's a silly way to put it. Just basically make sure that you check the deadlines and check everything using the college's website information. You can make phone calls directly to the college administration and ask questions. It's a lot better than believing a college recruiter. You want to watch out for, I really don't know, I'll have to look that up, for statistics they should have. That is the demographics of entering classes. That's one thing. For example, when I was about 17 and I went to a college presentation with my father, it was an Ivy League college that shall remain unnamed. The recruiter/presenter was asked the question, how many students go to your college from public schools? Okay. And the recruiter said, oh, well, I don't really know. I'll have to get back to you. Give me your number, whatever. Basically just kind of said, I don't know, and dodged the question. My father was not pleased with that response, even though he wasn't the one who answered the question. He wasn't the one who asked the question, is what I'm trying to say. My father didn't ask the question, but he's just like, no, there's no way. Colleges have statistics. These representatives have all these statistics right at their fingertips. There's no way that he doesn't know. He just doesn't want to answer it because that particular college doesn't admit very many people who didn't go to private high schools. That's what he's really getting at. Don't know if it's true. That's what my father thought. I tend to believe that's probably what happened. Either that or that was the world's worst prepared college recruiter/representative. So just remember that colleges are a lot like sports announcers. These college representatives are like sports announcers. They know every statistic, or they can get it at their fingertips. It's just like the sports announcer who says, wow, well, San Francisco 49ers usually do better on a full moon when they're against an AFC team. And, any crazy statistic you can think of, they come up with. Pretty much these recruiters should be able to answer your question very quickly, and if they can't, you might want to wonder about if this recruiter is shady or not. Don't trust interviewers. An alumnus who's been asked to do an informational interviewer, unlike the college recruiter, may very well have very limited access to specific details and statistics about the college. How do I know that? Well, because I've been such a person. So that doesn't mean they're lying to you. It's just, for example, when I did it, I didn't really have that much information when, I had my own experience from attending Williams College, but high school senior or junior I was interviewing or giving information to, if he'd asked me about percentages of first-year students who'd attended public schools or blah, 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 I would have had to say, geez, I don't know. I'll have to call the office, the Office of Admissions, because I have no idea. And I wouldn't have been lying. It just means that they don't know. So you're going to have to take an alumni interviewer as just somebody with general advice about the college. I could definitely tell him what the social life was like, what the academics were like, but I wouldn't have statistics. Obviously, don't rely on the alumni interviewers for information about deadlines. Again, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have expected anyone to think I should know that. Now, you want to be relaxed in interviews or sessions with recruiters. So whether you're meeting an interviewer or if you're meeting a recruiter, great. Be relaxed. They're people just like you. They're not here to torture you. Just assume, don't be too relaxed though. If you act really weird or you're dressed funny or you do something really annoying, yeah, they might actually report back to the college with your weirdest response to a question or the weirdest question you asked or the most annoying personal habit that you showed in the interview. So a little common sense goes a long, long way. Don't trust a voice on the phone. If you call a college, a testing company, or anyone else you need to give you some information, you have no proof as to what you were told. You could take notes. I do recommend you take notes. But unless you tell the other party that you're recording the call, or you live in a state where you can record phone calls without telling the other party you're recording the call, and California is not such a state to the best of my knowledge, you basically will have to get you have to get permission from the other party. So it's not legal advice. Please speak to a licensed attorney in your area if you need legal advice. But just know that you're not going to have any record. Your contemporaneous notes, that is notes taken at the same time, might be some sort of evidence. But if there's ever a real problem, if you don't have a recording of the call, it's your word against the person who was on the other end. If you didn't get a name, you don't even know who was on the other end of the phone. So basically, I wouldn't say you should trust a voice on the end of the phone. Definitely I've called up colleges for general information. And, I have no idea who answered. It was probably a student worker in the admissions office. Said, yeah, we got this. Okay, bye, click. Well, that's wonderful. If you really need proof that someone obtained something, like you need to show that the financial aid office actually received your application for financial aid on time, or your application for admission was received in the admissions office, you want to send postal mail or email. If it's postal mail, send it certified, return receipt requested. Email, you can set it to request a return receipt, electronic return receipt. Or send it by overnight delivery. FedEx, DHL, UPS overnight, USPS, next day delivery, whatever they call it, express mail. If you need proof of a communication and to whom you communicated. By the way, that's also a really great thing to do if you're dealing with a government agency. I have dealt with court clerks. I have dealt with people at the Department of Vital Records or whatever to get a copy of my birth certificate. If you don't send it with something that's tracked and signed for, it just gets lost. Even if there's a check, that's the worst case scenario is the check gets cashed, but your request is thrown into the trash or disappears some way. So you're out the money, but you didn't get a copy of whatever you were looking for, a birth certificate or something like that. So always, always, always send something that's tracked and has proof of delivery and has to be signed for if you're dealing with something important like a college, because otherwise you have no proof. And I remember one of my classmates from Williams lost something really important because, her postal carrier was very disabled, half deaf, something like that. I believe that's what she told me. And so, she mailed it out on time, but it didn't get to the school that it needed to get to. So her financial aid was delayed and everything because, at least according to her, because the Postal Service lost it. My experience with the Postal Service is they very rarely lose anything. But again, Murphy's Law applies. Is the one time out of 1,000 or so that something important gets lost, it's going to be something really important that you can't afford to get lost. I guess I should just say the one time out of 1,000 that something gets lost, it's going to be something really important, because whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and it will go wrong in the worst possible way. All right. Don't trust yourself. Don't look at things and think, oh, I'll remember those, especially things like test and college application deadlines. Put them in your calendar on your phone, on your computer. You can even maintain a paper calendar. Hey, get one with nice pictures to look at, maybe some Escher art, something like that. Why? Well, because if you miss a deadline, well, you're dead. Most colleges will not waive deadlines. Again, like the line I used before, they'll just tell you, hey, that was your first test at this school and you failed. Bye-bye. And the ones that will, waive deadlines, well, tells you something about how popular those places are. So, it's up to you. I would say just make sure you get everything in by the deadline. Don't trust your friends. Here's an article from the Harvard Crimson from about 3 years ago, 2017. So here, you might have heard about this. Recently admitted class of 2021 students, people who were going to be first-year students back in the beginning of, not at the beginning of the 2017-2018 academic year at Harvard. Harvard reminded everybody, as a reminder, Harvard College reserves the right to withdraw an offer of admission under various conditions, including if an admitted student engages in behavior that brings into question his or her honesty, maturity, or moral character, the description reads. All right. So if they find out that maybe you're not a nice kid, maybe you're dishonest, maybe you're really immature, or maybe you're going to need a couple years before you're ready to handle an Ivy League education or something like that, they can rescind your admissions offer. You don't want that to happen. So among other things, hopefully your teachers have told you or someone's told you that do not let your grades slip wildly after you get the admission to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, UC Berkeley, or wherever it is you want to go. Okay, schools will actually rescind admissions offers over things like that. If you then say, oh, okay, so obviously what this kid intends to do is just completely do no work once he's gotten into the prestigious school, do not be that kid. More from the Harvard meme article. On the other hand, I think people can post whatever they want because they have the right to do that. And that's a quote from a prospective student who knew of the meme group that was offensive, but didn't join it. So we don't think the school should have gone in and rescinded some offers because it wasn't Harvard affiliated. It was people doing stupid stuff. This is basically a Facebook group where people were posting some memes that were pretty racist and otherwise nasty. She added, though, that if memes sent over the chat posed any kind of threat to members' lives or well-being, then she believed administrators' actions were justified. This is basic First Amendment law. Again, not legal advice, but remember, private colleges don't always have to honor the First Amendment. They can kick you out for things that you have a perfect First Amendment right to do, including saying something that they might not like or that might not go according to their campus speech codes, etc. So what happened here is they had a meme group that was pretty normal for these students, and then some people decided to post some spicier memes. But the way to get into the secret group was to first you had to post some things that were a little controversial in the main group, and that's probably how these people found out about it. Anyway, your takeaway from this is go gray rock, as some psychologists like to say in a different context. Just you are a gray rock, you are tapioca pudding, you are something that is bland and inoffensive and doesn't stick out. Nobody could possibly be angry with you. You will have plenty of time to discuss and debate controversial topics when you get to the school of your dreams. That's kind of what college is for. do not start at this point, even though you're very close, because it's a lot easier for a college to just rescind your offer of admission than it is to kick you out once you're there. Not that they can't kick you out once you're there, but it's less likely to happen. And just please show enough maturity that these sort of things will not even be a problem for you. Just, you want to stay away from some topics online because they're online and they live forever and they can make you look really, really stupid long after you decided, gee, that wasn't such a great thing to post. I have a blog entry on that. You're welcome to look at it at my website at www.johnlinnebault.com. Don't trust your significant other. Significant other means boyfriend, girlfriend, lover of whatever gender. I don't care. So here's a nifty meme that I found. When the girl who friend-zoned you has a warrant. Crime Stoppers. Yeah, ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, ex-whatever friends. All of a sudden, the stuff that they thought was funny and cute, it becomes offensive. Might get reported to the college that you're planning to attend. Might get reported to other people. That can cause problems for you. So again, you know what? You're not going to be the edgy party dude, edgy party chick, whatever. You are going to be that person who goes home, studies, reads a nice book, has a little cup of tea, exercises, things like that. Just be really boring. Don't rock the boat. Life is unfair. That's a famous quote from John F. Kennedy. Response to a question about his opposition to his decision to send more U.S. Army Reserve troops to Vietnam at a press conference on March 21st, 1962. Well, that was part of a speech. I mean, it talked about that some people in the Army are stationed in Honolulu or Paris. Other people are stationed in Anchorage, Alaska. Is that fair? No, that is not fair at all. And John F. Kennedy is a Harvard alumnus. So to quote John F. Kennedy, life is unfair, so be careful. One applicant to any given college, not just Harvard, may get away with some of the most egregious displays of dishonesty, immaturity, or poor moral character ever. And that's any given college, doesn't have to be Harvard. While another may lose his or her spot at the same institution over at least what you see, or what I see, as a relatively minor indiscretion. Also known as a nothing burger. See, this is a nice bun with nothing in between. So, is that unfair? Yes, that's ridiculously unfair. But, unfair college decision? Well, really, that's too bad. Could the second student, Mr. or Ms. Nothing Burger, sue the college and win? Maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it. Again, this isn't legal advice. If you have a real problem and you might need to sue somebody or you think you might need to, go see an attorney. Colleges are private institutions, at least the private colleges are private institutions, and except as provided by anti-discrimination laws and maybe some other laws, can accept and reject students based on practically any criteria they wish. I didn't write this here, but yes, state schools are not private institutions. They are run by the state, so I believe they wouldn't have quite as much right to just reject people or do things for no reason or for reasons that wouldn't fly if the government just decided to do it. Again, not legal advice. Check with an attorney if you really need legal advice here. Don't trust me. Look these things up. If you want to go to a college, look it up online. Don't take my words as 100% true. You want to find the tests you need to take and what dates you need to take them. You want to check my advice against other advice you can find online in books, etc. Google and your public or school libraries are your friends. Don't plagiarize my blog or this channel. Anti-plagiarism site bots do check my site. No, really. I mean, there was one when I was checking my site traffic that showed me some name of some site and I had to look up what the site was. And, oh, it's one of those sites that just checks to see if papers are plagiarized. So if they're checking my site, they're checking everywhere. You'll get caught, and come on, you can write your own answer. Share this video and links to my site, blog, all you want. Do trust this advice. So, HTTPS, this is okay, EECS, umish.edu, Fessler, Misc Funny Management Lesson. Lesson 1. A crow was sitting on a tree doing nothing all day. A small rabbit saw the crow and asked him, "Can I also sit like you and do nothing all day long?" The crow answered, "Sure, why not?" So the rabbit sat down on the ground below the crow and rested. All of a sudden, the fox appeared, jumped on the rabbit, and ate it. Management lesson here: to be sitting and doing nothing, you must be sitting very, very high up. You, as a potential college student, are sitting very, very low. You are where the bunny is. You're not where the crow is. So you definitely always need to be doing something productive and refraining from doing things that are destructive. More useful advice. Lesson 2. A turkey was chatting with a bull. "I would love to be able to get to the top of that tree," sighed the turkey, "but I haven't got the energy." "Well, why don't you nibble on some of my droppings?" replied the bull. "They're packed with nutrients." The turkey pecked at a lump of dung, found it actually gave him enough strength to reach the lowest branch of the tree. The next day, after eating some more dung, he reached the second branch. Finally, after a fourth night, he was proudly perched at the top of the tree. Soon, he was promptly spotted by a farmer who shot the turkey out of the tree. Management lesson, or student lesson we should say here: bullshit might get you to the top, but it won't keep you there. Sorry if you're offended by the use of the S word, but oh well. Even more useful advice. Lesson 3. A little bird was flying south for the winter. It was so cold the bird froze and fell to the ground in a large field. While it was lying there, a cow came by and dropped some dung on it. As the frozen bird lay there in the pile of cow dung, it began to realize how warm it was. The dung was actually thawing him out. He lay there all warm and happy and soon began to sing for joy. A passing cat heard the bird and came to investigate. Following the sound, the cat discovered the bird under the pile of cow dung and promptly dug him out and ate him. What's the lesson here? 1. Not everyone who shits on you is your enemy. 2. Not everyone who gets you out of the shit is your friend. And when you're in deep shit, it's best to keep your mouth shut. Here endeth your management course or your college application course. So please, please, please keep these things in mind when you're applying. Just if someone is in quotes shitting on you, you know what? They're pointing out something that might actually be wrong with the way that you're doing things, and maybe you need to clean up your act. Maybe you need to do something a little bit different or a lot different. Somebody who in quotes gets you out of shit, hey, I can get you out of trouble, blah, blah, blah. You don't know what they're going to want in return. Or maybe they're trying to do something nice for you, but if you learn you can always get out of trouble, you're going to find out the hard way that, oh no, you can't actually always get out of trouble. So definitely understand that not everybody who's offering to help you out is necessarily your best friend or even a friend. And when you're really in it, you probably just want to keep your mouth shut because you don't want to compound the error or make things much worse for you by saying something stupid. So, and if you find you're in a place that you can tolerate and things are going okay, it's also good to, don't brag about it, because you never know when someone's going to come along and decide they want to fix your little red wagon because they don't like that you're doing well. Did you find this video useful? Please like it and subscribe to this channel. Neither action costs you anything. You'll be alerted about my new videos. Why do I care? Well, it's simple. YouTube doesn't let me share any ad revenue unless I have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours. That's 240,000 minutes of view time in a year. While many people are watching these, I don't have 4,000 hours of watch time. I also don't have anywhere near 1,000 subscribers. For the same reasons, you're not only welcome but encouraged to share links to this video, put in playlists, etc. I'm always happy to read and respond to constructive criticism or suggestions for new videos. I reserve the right to delete comments from and block those who specialize in destructive criticism, trolls, or things that are off topics, spammers and disturbed people. Thanks for watching, and here's some more contact info on the next slide. Contact me, Facebook, Instagram, email, phone. Facebook, it's www.facebook.com/Linaball Tutoring. Then Instagram, instagram.com/john.linaball.tutoring. Phone, 415-623-4251. Email, john@johnlinaball.com. Website, www.johnlinaball.com or www.johnlinaballtutoring.com. You can also find me at testpreparation.locals.com. That's a paid subscription site. Doesn't cost much, though. And it'll be an enjoyable community if you join. My mailing address is John Lindenbaugh Tutoring at 1859 Powell Street, number 109, San Francisco, California, 94133. All right, that's it. Hope you have a good day.